Hi, welcome to another support video that's part of the Parent Carer programme supporting youth anxiety. My name is Warren Matofsky, one of the CAMS psychologists.
And I'm Ruth Sequeira from the East Sussex Primary Mental Health Work team.
And in this video, we're going to be thinking about what is family accommodation. Accommodation refers to the changes that family members make to their own behaviour and routines to lessen the child's distress or to help the child get rid of the anxiety.
So the kind of things that we're talking about with accommodation are those behaviours that you might get involved in to reduce the anxiety. So for some examples are answering the same old questions again and again, sleeping with your child, repeatedly checking or saying things when requested, and doing everyday tasks for your child or staying with them while they do everyday tasks when actually they're capable of doing them themselves, speaking for your child, answering repeated calls or texts immediately, repeating long conversations about health worries, demanding the child gets on with something but leaving them to avoid the task, and reassuring again.
And again.
And sometimes siblings can be involved in this as well, so encouraging siblings to accommodate, and sometimes this is done silently as a kind of just understanding that that's something that they need to do.
And so the second group of family accommodations relates to changing family routines. So this might be about stopping inviting guests over, organising meals to suit the child with anxiety and not other family members, accepting aggressive, threatening or controlling behaviour from the child without comment or consequence. Perhaps not using certain words or referring to situations just in case that might trigger the child's anxiety. You might have been pulled into leaving work early or late to stop the child worrying, or driving particular routes is another common one. You might cancel family trips or not even talk about kind of making plans for fear of triggering anxiety, even though that's the kind of thing you might prefer to do as a parent or carer. You might ignore the fact that homework isn't being done or other chores, or you might ignore unacceptable behaviour that would be mentioned if anyone else in the household did it.
So family accommodation is the way that anxiety can begin to organise family life. And accommodation is very ordinary, and so you will, I'm sure with that list just now, you will notice things that happen in your family life that may have just become really part of the norm. And it's often driven by our love for our children and wanting them to be well. And accommodation is often an automatic reaction to a child feeling anxious.
And I think that automatic thing is significant. So hopefully over the course of this programme, it'll be a chance with the support of other parents in the group to begin to notice where we are accommodating, which is the first stage of making the kind of changes we're talking about in this programme. So yeah, the point there that accommodation does often happen out of awareness. So just to spell out this accommodation trap, as we're calling it, everyone's efforts to stop the child feeling anxious can disrupt others' lives, and give fewer chances for the child to cope for themselves. And accommodation is so ordinary and automatic, we often don't notice that we've fallen into it.
So this is the kind of cycle that we can get into with these accommodating behaviours. So at the top here, you'll see that the child becomes anxious, distressed, and this can evoke this kind of reaction from a family member or helper to accommodate their own behaviour in order to reduce this anxiety. So this can lead to a short-term reduction in distress for the young person and quite often for the family as well. But actually leads to this kind of ongoing dependence on parents and carers for coping. So the young person becomes dependent on that reaction in order to manage the situation. And in that way, the fear of the situation is maintained, and this kind of then becomes part of this cycle where the anxiety and distress is also maintained.
So you've heard there about the pattern of accommodation. Why do adults do this accommodating thing, whether it's parents and carers, helpers, or people in other professional roles? Well, the first thing is it's really horrible to see our young person feeling distress. So we accommodate in order to reduce the distress. We may have the belief that anxiety is harmful and to be avoided. But as you heard in video one, you know, anxiety is horrible but not dangerous. It's the avoidance that's dangerous. But when we see our child being distressed, it's really aversive and we might want to do anything to make it go away. In terms of accommodating, there could be short-term gains for the child or family functioning, maybe by not mentioning the non-completion of a particular task. There's not going to be a row at the dinner table if you eat dinner together, and maybe that helps family functioning in the short term but not in the long term. Often, as we've said, when you're with somebody that's highly anxious, you can feel highly anxious, so it could be our anxiety that's driving the accommodation as parents and carers. It could be that anytime we reduce accommodation, the child might become aggressive or threatening. And it's very common for parents to avoid raising, doing, or mentioning things for fear of the child's aggression or threat.
So we're going to start looking at mapping this accommodation. So yeah, really looking at those different accommodating behaviours that might become part of family life. And I think it's really good to mention that it can actually be really hard to stop accommodation. Quite often these behaviours have really become part and parcel of family life. Everybody expects them. So to change that can create some tension for everybody. Families often find it best to start with just this, mapping. So becoming aware of what you're doing already, and then from there, starting to work out a plan where you can gradually start reducing things, and often starting with with whatever feels easiest in terms of that is a good place to start.
And in the diary sheets and planning tools that follow this video on the website, you will be supported through mapping the accommodation and working out a plan. Thank you.